Hello, Evers, and welcome back to another episode of Slicey Boy Saturday here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host here, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode of Slicey Boy Saturday, we are going to talk about D2 versus 14C28 and knives, specifically from companies including Klaken, Drachenader, Eafengrow, Olitans, Mossy Oak EMTHii, Flessa 704 gear, as well as a brand new one that I found recently called Aubey, Aubey. So, to start out today, though, one thing I do want to bring up specifically, and I'm going to do a little PSA here at the beginning of this episode, is knives with glass breakers specifically, and why it is so important to have one of these things as your potential EDC. And it basically boils down to the fact that when it comes to tools overall and just having the right tool for the job, it is vitally important to have a glass breaker on you at all times for multiple reasons. Obviously, the biggest one is in case you're ever in a crash and you need to get yourself out, or look at how many people have died here in the past, like, let's say 25, 30 years now is what it is, just from, either falling asleep behind the wheel or having like a car crash that nobody realizes, and they just go off an embankment or something like that and then go right into a body of water and end up sinking because they didn't have a glass breaker. They died in the car is what it is. I actually saw a good video. It was your last night this morning with this woman who was teaching her kids that exact thing of why glass breakers are so important to have. And it was basically, they were doing a submersion scenario where they had, found themselves into a pond or something. That's what it is. And she was telling the kids, like, oh yeah, grab off the headrest and try to use the headrest metal to like knock against this tempered glass, and it didn't work. Like, it just launched off the glass is what it is there. Whereas when you have a glass breaker on something like this EDC, I always carry it with me, is Flessa. This can actually break through tempered glass. Now, granted, if you watch 704 Tactical 704 Gear, his review on this knife from about, 3 or 4 months ago is what it was, which I believe I picked it up because of him is what it is then. I was debating it because I was like, okay, this is like a $30-something knife. Like, why would I want to pick up a $30-something knife, when I can get something similar for like $20 is what it is. And then when he was showing the tempered glass breaking he was able to do with this, I was like, deal, gotta buy it, dude. And I've carried this knife with me every day for like the last, I think, roughly about 3.5 months or so, give or take. So it was right before Christmas, I believe I got this in, and then it's been carrying with me ever since. That's what it is. So, which, sometimes they go on sale, sometimes they don't. I do believe the original price on this was $33. I think that's what it is written on Amazon. And it's worth every penny, honestly, dude, because not only does it have your actual D2 knife there, you got the jumping on it there, which is really nice for fire starting stuff. Obviously, your glass breaker on the bottom is the biggest plus on this. It has a very, very, very smooth action at that price point, by the way. Like, it is so friggin' smooth to open and shut this thing. Like, it's basically like glass to open and shut the thing. And it also has a little couple multi-tool things. Here's what it is. And the reason I bring this up, obviously, is because I recently got a Mossy Oak that I'm going to talk about here in a minute that has similar features, where it's got the kind of the hook thing is what it is here, and like various point things is what it is, and then it's got the little pry bar and bottle opener piece on the other side. There's what it is. So this is $33 as far as I'm aware still right now, which, like I said, it could be on sale at some point for under that. And then we have this Mossy Oak that I got in the other day, which at the time, this was on sale for $20. Right now, it's like $28. I would not pay $28 for it. I would pay $20 though. and I did. This has a similar deal to the Flessa. Flessa's a little bit better, I think, honestly, blade-wise, just because the size of it is a bit different. This has a similar glass breaker. It doesn't feel as much of a point as the Flessa does. And then, of course, it also has a different, when you do a comparison there, you got your little spot right there for a potential piece of paracord or like lander loop or whatever you call it there. This one has a different kind of one where you can do the same thing, but it's got just like a hang there. The big difference I noticed between these two knives is obviously the way that their clips are set up here is what it is. The Flessa is definitely more able to get on the pocket. This one is not quite as different as that. By the way, I'm carrying this as a backup now to this. So I did that yesterday when I was going out. I was like, okay, I'm going to start carrying this as a backup knife because I don't have a second glass breaker just in case is what it is. So, but yeah, this Mossy Oak, it is also a D2 steel. It's a little bit different blade shape. It's more of a slimmer profile and has like this weird little like hooking spot right there, if you want to call it that. Has a slight bit of jimping right there, but not much, and it definitely feels a lot. You compare that to the Flessa, I can see definitely getting the spark off this Flessa, whereas this, I don't know if we could or not. So the only difference I would say with the handle material on this, I believe these are G10 handles on these. I'm not sure what the Flessa was made out of, if it's G10 or micarta, but it definitely has like more of a sheen feel to it, whereas this has more of that like rough texture feel to it is what it is there. Feeling this in my hand though, this does feel interesting, and it does basically fit my hand pretty good. Like I said, it has a similar deal. Has a similar action, smoothness wise. And then of course has very similar tool pieces to the Flessa, which might be slightly smaller actually. I'm gonna check these real quick against each other. I feel like the Flessa might be like a little bit bigger when it comes to the little pry bar it has in it. I'm not sure. It's really hard to get these out with my arthritic fingers. Okay, so let's check these. Yeah, that thing was about the same on that. Well, it's hard to say on that. I feel like they could be a similar size. I'm assuming it's a similar factory, honestly. It does all these because I noticed, that was one thing I did notice was when I bought Flessa stuff before, specifically that big ass Bowie knife. And then I also bought a Mossy Oak version that was around the same price, maybe $1 cheaper or something at the time. They definitely 100% came from the exact same factory. They're in China. The only difference is that you had one have the Flessa name CNC'd on it, what do you want to call it there? And then the other one obviously had Mossy Oak written across it then. So it could be that these are both made in the same factory, just different, lines of the factory essentially what it is there. Who knows? But like I said, this was $20 on sale the other day. It's now $28. I do believe that this is still a 33. If I was to pick one of these, I would honestly go with the Flessa just because I like it more. I think it has a better, smoother action and just slightly smoother action. And also, I've just carried it for longer, is what it is. And also, the blade itself is, you can't beat that extra length of that drop point. So, but yeah, either way, you should always carry a glass breaker with you. If you don't have a knife with a glass breaker on it, I'm not saying you buy one. You don't need to, but it does help, and it would be a better option. It could be an all tool at that point because you could literally have not only a glass breaker to bust out the windows, you would also have an actual blade and slice through. So versus if you have a knife and a glass breaker, you know, and you happen to be in a car of some kind, it could easily be a situation where you end up having to put yourself into a bad deal. And who's to say that one of the two items wouldn't go flying off you at that point, where if you have a clip in your pocket, I guarantee it's going to stay clipped. So, but anyway. Mossy Oak box is kind of beat to shit, though, what it is. Not surprising, sadly, but it is what it is. So yeah, moving on from that PSA, I want to talk about some of the other knives here today that we have, specifically, like I said earlier, this new company, Aubrey. This is one that I found myself here about, I don't know, like a week or two ago, give or take. And actually, sorry, it wasn't a week or two ago. It would have been probably about a month or so ago. And it just now came in because it was so backed up on shipping and stuff like that. But it was worth the wait, honestly. And I'll tell you guys why, and I'll show you guys why here in a second. Popped out of here. What it is. It's like really slow, dude. God. Pack the knife so tight in there is what it is. Yeah, clearances will be then. Yes, so, Jesus. There we go. So it comes in a nice little kingdom carrying. It's a $20 knife, by the way. So it has your nice little carrying case there. Open it up. You got your little seal of approval thing there. Little desiccant packet. Little space there for either pen or something else in there. Obviously, a knife is in this side here. Slingy piece. And sorry about my video cutting in and out like that. I'm not sure why it keeps doing that. But yeah, this is what the knife actually looks like, though. So this is supposed to be a button lock on this. The issue is not fully a button lock because this is so indented down, you actually have to use the flipper piece to even open this up. And it's a pretty big blade. I think this is almost a 4-inch blade on this. The knife itself, I think, is around 8.5 to 9 inches long completely, and it completely engulfs my hand. Like this is the best knife I've ever read right now when it comes to a folder, being able to actually feel like I'm holding a knife and not being able to get cut with it is there. This is obviously one of the few 14 C28 end knives that I'm going to talk about today. It's like a lot, honestly, not going to lie. Obviously, most of these seem to tip-up carry. The Mossy Oak was. That Flesta that I'm doing is. This one is. What's interesting about this guy is it does not have jimping on the actual blade itself. And what's also interesting with this being a button lock, when it actually is deployed, as you guys can see there, the button is actually depressed out so that you actually can pop it down and put it back in. But when it's actually locked in place, I don't know if this is like a bad spot on it or something, or if it's like a weird feature or something, because it does not want to deploy like that. It's like totally back in place, or you have to flip it open again. That's what it is. So I do dislike that part of it though, because truthfully, like if I wanted to have a true button lock, I would want something that I could easily press down and open up. Whereas if I try to press it like that, it's really hard to open it like that's what it is. So that is a cool Tonto design though on it. And then one of the main reasons I bought this too as well was because that's what we got Tonto design. That being said, like I said, there's no jimping on the actual blade itself, but there is like some weird kind of like jimping almost on this side and this side of the handle. And there's also like a lot more on this other side here, where you could easily do like a strike off on that if you wanted to. I don't know if it would actually work or not. I don't know if that's truly jimping to use that for potentially starting a fire or not. I don't know if I trust that or not, just because of the fact this handle material does appear to be some kind of a polymer. I don't believe this is G10 scales. I think it's just some kind of polymer handle, what it is. But overall, very good design, very nice knife. Like I said, my only gripe with it is the fact that you don't have the button lock being able to be easily depressed and being able to be a little bit more out when it's closed up versus when you actually open it up. You can see it literally. Yeah, you can see it like literally just opens up a little bit more. There's what it is. It comes out maybe like a quarter of an inch or something. So, but overall, just a really nice knife in general. And like I said, can't really beat these $20 price points on a lot of these, dude. And some of these on this table today were under that. They were around like 18 or 13 or something like that. But you know, for a quality knife with no no discount codes or anything like that. And the fact you're talking about 14C28N versus D2, which I've noticed there's a lot of D2s that will have like around that $20 price point or just under. There's not a whole lot of 14C28N that have the price point. Like most of them are either going to be like 25 or like just around like 22, 23, something like that's what it is. So I'm not going to stick that all the way back in. I'll stick it a little bit back in. Next up, we have a Klaken, which probably next week I'm going to do a something I call the Jade collection, because I have gotten a lot of knives that have a jade coloration to them recently, and I want to do that as a whole separate thing. So obviously you got your Klaken blade here. This is one of the many jade colorations there. The only thing I don't like about these jade scales on this is that they don't glow in the dark. And it seems like none of these companies let their shit glow in the dark like that, which they should, because that's badass if it did. But this is another D2. Pretty nice. I believe this was on sale for right around 18 the other day when I picked it up. It feels pretty good in the hand. The only gripe I have with these Klaken knives is how this particular scale right here is cut back, because then you have the actual liner lock right there. And when you're holding it, it definitely does, like depending on where your finger lies, if it lies in the joint or if it lies right behind it or whatever, it definitely does cut into your, like not, it doesn't like cut in, but like it presses in to that joint and just does not feel comfortable. So, now granted, that being said, if you hold it a little bit differently, it actually does feel quite comfortable. And, you know, for a company that most blades are, I believe, around 23 without any kind of, when they were on discount, they were like somewhere between like 18 and 20 bucks. So, you know, you can't really beat that as what it is. Sister's calling me. I'm going to have to call her back in a few minutes as it does then. So, but yeah, overall, pretty nice knife. Klaken is one of these companies that definitely is trying to make their name compared to everybody else's what it is here. And that's the thing, like when you have like, you know, a saturated market, you basically have these companies that will compete for your dollars and will actually make a fairly good product. I really wish a lot of these were just made in America is what it is. But unfortunately, you know, when we sell out our manufacturing to China for, you know, 20, 30 years now, they're obviously going to be the ones making this stuff, where you cannot tell me that we cannot make a similar product for a very similar price, if not a cheap price, even for that matter, here on U.S. soil. So that does bother me that you don't have a lot of knife manufacturers making their way back to America as what it is then. So, but anyway, up next we have the first of 3 Eafengrow blades. This is the EF65, which comes with a little teeny baby hanky. There's what it is. So I originally bought this knife because I assumed it would be a lot bigger than it was. This was not as big as it's showing in the pictures. It does bother me quite a bit, honestly, because I do feel like it's a little faulty advertisement. That blade is not as big as it shows in the photos. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointment on that one. Overall, not a bad knife, but again, when you have a big hand like mine and you need a bigger knife because of that, it's really hard to get full grip on that without your pinky being kind of in like a weird spot, basically. Overall, has some decent little what it is there. That being said, the scaling on this is a little weird too. I think these are micarta handles, if I'm not mistaken. And my biggest gripe with them, honestly, is if you can see right in the middle here, it's almost like it took like 4 pieces and like made like a weird cut there to like put the pins in, and then basically just like left the rest of it there where they should have had just like a piece right here, a piece right there for the things, and the rest of it should have all been like one solid chunk essentially. So yeah, like I said, slightly disappointed and stuff like that's what it is. That being said, I could see giving this as like a first knife to some kid or something like that. What it is there, my friend's buddy, his son's going to be turning 13 pretty soon, so I don't know if that would be his first blade or not, but might be something worth giving him as a birthday gift. Obviously, I'll talk to his parents before I would do that as a friend, just because I would be like, yeah, here's a knife for your kid randomly. Like, I want to have a knife is what it is there. But you know, I feel like any of these kids nowadays, especially unfortunately, with the way that we were seeing targeted racism towards whites is what it is by blacks and other minorities is what it is there. These white kids need to arm themselves is what it is, dude. And parents should be arming them for real is what it is. So, moving on, we have the second Klaken knife, which this one came in kind of messed up as a box is what it is. It wasn't really like anything bad with it, but it definitely, the box itself got a little bit like beat up, and shipping is what it is there. So, the other side here is what it would be. Take out that little Klaken monogram. That is the one thing I do appreciate with a lot of these companies, though, is that they'll do a little monogram towelette thing in there. Is what it is. This is also a jade coloration. I think this is a similar one to the other one, but it's a different kind of blade. So I don't think this is the same exact one as the other one, is it? Maybe one of these was 14C28N. No, this is DT right here on this one. I don't think these are the exact same. Let me check just to make 100% on this right now. Oh, okay, that was the difference. Yeah, one was this one has a black coat. This one is the in my hair now. Yeah, this one is the silverish coloration, but overall they are the same blade. Just 2 different variations of the same exact. Actually, is there a little bit of difference in the actual blade here? What it is? No, I guess it's the same blade. Yeah, one's coated, one's not. So, and basically, there's a reason for that, obviously, because you can do stuff like this and be like, knife fight, pirate time. So, yeah, me just being a silly ass, honestly. But yeah, they're pretty cool knives is what it is though, dude. And you can't beat that price point when they're, like I said, on sale for around like $18 or so. So the one thing about Klaken too is that they are one of only a few companies that I've seen that put something like this in there, where it's basically telling you how to clean your knife and how to do things is what it is there, and basically like making sure you don't cut yourself and whatnot. And I think it actually has something about like some kind of knife log, depending on where you're located. So, which truthfully, when it comes to, I don't care if it comes to knives, I don't care if it comes to guns, the law of the land should be respect people's rights to carry whatever the fuck they want to carry. So, anyway, so that's it for the Klakens for today. Yes, definitely. There we go. Up next, actually, I'm going to take a piece here as well because it has a little bit of stuff in there. That is the one thing I will say about putting these back in their boxes. It's much easier when you actually take out the little inserts. So. I totally did not make my money back on that. So, yeah, didn't see that yesterday. I did a lot of scratch stream where instead of doing the $1 ones, I bought a bunch of $5 ones, and then making I got a $20 winner and a $2 winner, or off a $2 ticket, and then I ended up getting out of the $25 scratchers I did. There was, I believe, 6 winners in that. It only equaled out to $70. So it was actually worse off than the dollar scratchers before that I've done. At least with those, I'll make my money back or my money back, depending on what it was. Next up for today's episode, we got an Olitans knife, or Olitans, however you pronounce it. This is one of the I've known before. I've gotten it when they were very small. This one actually wasn't. This was on sale for, I believe, right around $20. And it's actually slightly bigger than the other guys because the other dudes were like basically the size of my finger, whereas this is a little bit bigger than that. Has a nice little profile to it. Is obviously another D2. Has an interesting little drop point blade color or blade to it. Has a nice chunk of jimping right there. And definitely is aggressive enough to where you spark off that very easily. In my hand, this actually does feel good. It has a weird, almost like banana kind of fold to it, but it definitely feels good in the hand. And you also have a little choil up here that if you needed to put your hand up there or finger up there for some reason, which I don't know why you really want to do that, because there is that little point right there. Easily end up nicking yourself on if you're doing stuff. Plus, I wouldn't really want to use this for bushcraft purposes just because, you know, it is what it is. Normally, I believe these are like 24 or 25, but they were on sale for, I think, right around 20 or just under 20. I don't know if they're still that price or not, but overall, it's a good company. If they have the deals, I would say they're worth it for the deals. If they don't have the deals and it's like 25, 30, whatever it is, they don't really charge for it. They're definitely not worth that price point. So, speaking of other knives that are not really worth that price point, I'm going to move on to a 704 knife that I want to talk about. This is the Harbor Master that I ended up buying the other day just because I really, really like the look of it, the feel of it, and everything. Being said, I don't know if I got like a bunk one or what it is, because my big gripe with this thing is that it is in fact a crossbar and not a liner lock or a button lock. And that being said, it does have a nice cool little thing here where you get like bottle cap opening with it. I as you guys know from times where I've talked about crossbar locks, you should use back and have shit just swing free. This does not. This does not want to do that at all. It is very hard for me to do that with one hand. Like, it is hurting my hand just to open that, honestly. And it does not want to swing open very easily either. So I don't know if they just didn't bother to lift this thing up in the factory there in China or what it was. I am very disappointed with that because you guys know I like 704 as a person. He's a good dude. But yeah, like, this quality control is definitely not very quality, as well say on that one. However, that I do like the point of this blade, and I don't believe this is a drop point. I believe this is some kind of other blade shape. It is a cool looking blade shape, but again, I really wish this was either a button lock or a liner lock, because it is really hard to open this thing, and it is really hard to close it without it like pinching my fingers really badly. And for people like myself with arthritis, like, that's a big fucking deal. So why would we invest in the company if it's gonna, you know, cause us pain is what it is there. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much my biggest gripe for that one. That being said, it's an overall, it's a decent blade overall. That's what it is, dude. For a D2, it's just the fact that, you know, like I said, had it been maybe properly oiled up or whatever, it might be better. And maybe I'll just oil it myself if that'd be the case in the next day or two, and maybe it'll be better and I can just like work it through or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm buying something off of someplace, like, it should already come in working order, basically, is the way I call it. And like, it would be proper working order, not like, you know, half-ass working or whatever. So, like, again, like, why would I spend, you know, money for that if it's not going to do that? And the thing is, like, I know 704 does do deals on these things, and I believe that was a deal. I believe that was around a $20 deal or so for that one. The fact of the matter is, though, is that when they're not on sale, something like that, something dollars with this dude, is it worth that? Fuck no. And that's one thing I will say straight up, man. Like, I don't believe that blade is worth it when it's not on sale. And it's only when it's on sale that I'll actually even think about, you know, potentially picking it up there is what it is. So that's pretty much it for that one. Next up, we got a Flessa. I actually have a different variation of this someplace else that I could not figure out where it was now. I bag down there, but I'm not sure. That particular version was the button lock version. This is the liner lock version. This, I believe, is still on sale for $13 now. And it's a good knife, especially at that $13 price point. I believe this was like 20-something like a year ago or so. So very slim, nice little gentleman's folder kind of profile, what it is there. Very nice opening. Interesting knife shape. This kind of reminds me a little bit of the Mossy Oak that I was talking about earlier, because it has that kind of, it's almost like a reverse version of the little like droop there is what it is. Whereas the Mossy Oak was like the opposite of that. It was like more of like a rise up the piece there is what it is. This is more like a drop down one. This is obviously also D2. The interesting thing about this is that it has those little like indents in the blade itself is what it is there. Overall, good feel. And almost perfectly. This is one of the ones, one of the few actually in this episode today that is a tip down carry instead of tip up. Everything else is pretty much tip up. This is tip down. So, and obviously it's a non-reversible tip down. So, non-reversible, non-switchable. So, it's basically, that's how it is, or you have nothing basically is there. So, you know, for some people that might be an issue. For me, it's not. I think it's a good knife overall. And like I said, especially now, 100%. If you don't have one of these, I would say pick one of these up, honestly, if you got the cash lying around. Because for $13, you can't beat that price, man. I want to say that's like the lowest in 30-day price, if I'm not mistaken. So, moving on from there, we have a EMTHii. This is the second and final knife crossbar lock today. And this little desiccant packet there is what it was. Pushed in with it. I believe I've had a couple different variations of this knife before in different colorations. This one is white specifically. Overall, these knives are not bad. Like most, it does not have any jimping on the actual blade. It does have like a weird kind of jimp right here is what it is though, which I can see easily getting a spark off of. Obviously it has its little points there is what it would be for your tabs. Obviously, and you can also just open it, a crossbar lock as well. The issue again with knives like this is it does not want to go completely shut. Like you almost have to like do like a double pull on it to get it completely closed. And then even opening it back up with the crossbar feature, it is really hard to get it completely down for it to like swing open and swing free. Because it really does not want to do that. It really wants to do like a tap open basically. And then sort of a shut down like that is what it is. So again, you can see how that pressed into my finger. That is almost as bad as the 704 one. Not quite, just because these tabs are a little bit different. But yeah. And again, I think these crossbars are the fact that these companies, when they were assembling them, they'd be putting like a little bit of oil or something in the assembling feature that it is for both the crossbar piece here and also like around the pivot points of the actual blade itself what it is then. And they're not doing that, or if they are doing that, they're doing it and only doing like a little bit is what it's there. And by the time they sell the knife off and it gets shipped out and gets, you know, to its intended user, being someone like myself is what it is, they end up not having any oil left in them, that's what it is. And so you end up having a situation where they do have that like weird, like almost like stickiness going on there is what it is, where it doesn't want to fully close, it doesn't want to fully open is what it is properly. And that is a big problem. I don't care how much that knife costs at that point. It could be like $5, honestly. Like that is definitely a design flaw for sure. So up next, we have another Eafengrow. I will say, I don't know if this happened at the factory or if this happened at shipping. Look how beat to shit this box is. Like it looks like somebody stomped the shit out of the box, honestly. And I noticed when they did it, this was like the only time that they have had like a fully around there for their thing. So that being said, the knife itself did not sustain any damage as far as I'm aware, but that box definitely got beat all to hell is what it is. You can see like the sunlight coming through, that's what it is. And then just like the empty space there is what it would be. So yeah, disappointed a little bit in that one. That being said, another jade blade here. This was which EF is this? Yeah, this is EF 231. So this is the, is this a D2 or is this a 14C? Okay, this is the weirdest one. So this is the only one I've seen that has the D2 logo right there on the tab. So overall, very interesting blade shape completely. I'm not even sure what kind of blade shape that is considered. This one actually reminds me of a pirate shape, honestly, if I'm going to be clear with you guys. Again, it has a nice little, almost like banana kind of fold too, is what it is there. Feels very good in the hand. Like very, very good in the hand. Tip down carry. I don't think this is reversible. No, it's not. Okay. But yeah, it just feels nice overall. This is the kind of knife I could see using in a knife fight if it came to it. Very, very, very sharp point on that. Overall, feels good. Nice close up. Very nice open up. Has a similar smooth action to the Flessa I was talking about earlier. This Flessa has a slightly smoother action to it. But then again, there is like about a $13, $14 price difference between these two knives, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say this was about 20 when I got it on sale the other day. When it's not on sale, it's like around 25, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still about a $7, $8 price difference there is what it is. So nice knife. Like I said, the only thing I dislike about the jade scales on these is that they don't glow in the dark, because that would be a really cool feature if they did. Especially if you were out in the woods and ended up having this on you and then drop it or something like that, and then you found it again because of being glow in the dark into a frame or whatever there. So that'd be kind of cool. Second to last knife today, we got another Eafengrow, the last Eafengrow of the day. This is the EF223. This is a black G10 handled. It's a very interesting too. Again, just like most of the Eafengrows, does not have any kind of jimping on the blade itself. It has these weird, almost like jimping spots right here on the back of the scales, what it is there. Overall, very interesting look to the blade. Has a decent feel on the hand. The only thing I would say is because the way this is designed, where you, like if it was done to where this was like just a total ramp and didn't have that like weird like curve to it, it would be a better feel honestly in the hand, because when you put your hand around that, specifically it's these last two fingers, your ring finger and your pinky, that basically hit the piece. And it definitely does feel like a little bit weirder in the hand. It actually hurts when you're holding it very tightly is what it is. Not a whole lot, like just enough to where it could be annoying basically. I could see if you had like a glove or something on it, it'd be probably fine. But when you don't and you're holding it like that, like it definitely is, it's like that little bump thing where if it had just been like something like that where it would have came and just kind of like didn't have this like double bump basically, it just had like a continuation like sloop like that basically is what it would be. It would have been better design overall, I think is what it is. So that's the one drawback with this knife. Again, I think this was like 18 or 20 on sale, because they had like a I believe they had like a 30% off sales what it is on these knives from the usual like 20, 25, something like what it is there. So, and then finally today, we get to the Drachnader, which this is a huge fucking box, by the way, they put these things in. But I understand why. And it's because when you open the box itself, you got the knife down here, you got your little monogram, and then you got an accuracy case in here as well, that you can take it out and put it on your belt or something. So, and then this is also a button lock. It's also a jade scale on it there. This has a weird scaling design to it, because it almost feels like a dragon scale, which does not feel the greatest in the hand, but it's whatever. Tip down, or no, sorry, tip up carry on this. The one thing I will say with this particular one that I just noticed is I don't know if they didn't do like a smooth edge quality control test there or what it is. I don't know if that's coming up in the camera or not. There is like some extra little bits there that are like fragmentation and almost need to be like scraped off basically. Actually, let me see if I can just do that right now. Yeah, if I can pull one of these off and like, yeah, you can see my finger right there. It's got a little bit of stuff on there. Like it didn't get like fully like smooth edge or whatever there, which is not a huge deal, but at the same time it kind of is, because it shows black quality control is there. Difference between this one and the one from earlier is this particular button lock, as you can see, actually does rise up just enough to where you can push it in and then let it swing free, which is how these knives should work. And again, this is a 14C28N. Has a very interesting blade shape to it, because it is more of a weird like drop point. Has a little indents like some of the other ones we've shown today. Also has your little side tabs. You want to pop it like that's what it is there. And it has a nice little bit of jimping there is what it is. And I believe this one was either around 15 or 16 when I bought it. So, yeah, pretty good knife overall. I wish the blade on this was just like ever so slightly bigger. Like, I mean, it's a fine shape right now is what it is. I just wish I had like a little bit more length, like right about here. Ooh, that was not good. Oh, I did scrape myself a little bit on that one, but thankfully it didn't cut past the skin. It definitely, you can tell that was a sharp edge on that though. So, just making sure that didn't break skin. No, I think it's okay. That's the thing that you don't really know until you cut yourself with it. You're not truly sitting there until that happens. But, you know, obviously you shouldn't be doing that on principle. But, yeah. Again, the only issue with this blade as well is, as you can see with the way that's popping in there, it just needs a slight, it basically probably needs like a little bit of like squirts of oil in there to keep it so that the what you call it will be good. But it does have a nice swingable open tube is what it is there. So see if we can do a tab opening on this. Yeah, see that's how you can kind of tell it's a button lock. See if I can get that more in the mic there. Just the way it like does that clang. So, but yeah, overall nice knife. The only thing I would wish with this one is that the scaling on this. I don't think you do that dragon scale shit. It would feel a lot more comfortable if it did not have that pattern on it. Specifically holding it in the hand, because it just feels weird just holding your hand like that is what it is, because it has like more of a rough texture on your palm. That's what it is. So that being said, it could be a gripping feature actually, because especially if you were in, you know, a legit life situation, you had to use this in a knife fight of some kind, or, you know, self-defense situation, like you would want to have that stay in your hand and have it be a situation where you have to have, you know, like it falls out of your hand, you got to pick it up and then, you know, re-engage in the fight or whatever it is there. So, yeah, overall, decent little blaze what it is there. And overall, I think a lot of these knives today were pretty good. Like I said, they're my favorite company. I think has to be that Obby one, just because that particular knife has just the coolest length to it. I wish the knife itself was a little bit longer, but overall pretty good. And that was the other 14C20 hand that we had today is what it is. Everything else I believe was D2 if I'm not mistaken. So, which there is slight differences obviously between D2 and 14C. The biggest one is that obviously with D2, it has more of a retention of the edge, but it's also harder to sharpen when it does get dull, versus the 14C. It has a nice ability to sharpen quicker is what it is then. Does not have the edge retention is what it is. So you get like a very good sharpness to it, but then it could be dulling out then faster. So, from my understanding anyway. But yeah, overall, knives today, you know, it really becomes a whole pick your poison thing at that point. Depends on what you want from a knife company, and what price point you're willing to go to. If you want to go into that $20 range, you want to go into that $25 range, you want to go into that $30 something range, you know, you can get all kinds of different stuff that's real good. Or you can get, you know, good deals on things that are like $13, like the Flessa, when it goes on sale. So, you know, it just all depends really. Or you can go a little bit even and go for that, you know, $30, almost $5-ish one, which is a 33 if I'm not mistaken. When I bought it, like I believe it was like 4 to 6 months ago, give or take now. But yeah, this is also my primary EDC is what it is then. Whereas this new Mossy Oak is going to be my secondary in my pants. So, and then most likely I'll start carrying a small fixed blade in my bag with me is what it's going to be, in case things go down. The main reason too, obviously, like I said, to have window breaker stuff, go back to the window breaker thing again. is, especially if you do have a car accident of some kind, mostly because of the fact that when it comes to all these modern cars currently, they have now had like a weird design feature to them, which is more or less a design flaw in my opinion, where they no longer have the ability to have actual locks be able to be opened by the human hand. They're all internally locked in the actual frame of the door is what it is then. And because of that, with them being, all electrical panel stuff is what it is, as soon as that hits water, it just fries out. And so if you don't have a window breaker, you're going to have a coffin because you're going to die in that thing because you're going to have no way to get out of those vehicles what it is there. And even if you're not the person that has the car accident, like you could easily be a person, just out in some public area or under some bridge or whatever, just having a fishing experience over down there, just going fishing for the day or whatever. And all of a sudden some car comes flying off the fucking bridge above you and flies in the water, and you're the only one there, and you can, you have the ability to go out there and swim out there and bust their window open for them and get that person to safety. Whereas that person might not be able to do it themselves if that be the case then. So, or, God forbid we go into a grid down situation, or whatever the case be, and you need to go, hurry up and get the fuck out kind of situation there or whatever. And you just need to bust a window open of a vehicle to, hotwire a car or something if that be the case then. Now, granted, that would only be in those circumstances if it was like pure grid down stuff. I'm not saying, go commit felonies and shit like that, obviously. But, yeah, if it was something that was like, your survivor, yeah, that would be a good reason to have one too, just pop up in a back window, or, even if it's like a vehicle has one of those little like teeny windows where you can shove your hand through or whatever, then bust that little piece out or whatever, stick your hand in there, pop the lock, and then, get in the vehicles what it is then. And get out of Dodge what it is done from the rails. So, yeah, there's so many uses for it, what it is to have a window breaker. Like I said, could even be a flipped vehicle where, car's on fire for that matter, and like a car or whatever, and the people can get out real quick is what it is, and they'll be a breaker, and you just have to be with a knife with a window breaker on it, and you're just like smack, smack, or you just hand it off to somebody that's like smack, smack, and then lives is what it is done because of you. So definitely worth it to have one of those, obviously. And if you don't, like I said, if you don't want to invest in a blade that has a window breaker on it, dude, seriously, just invest in a window breaker for like $5 to $6 or something, maybe 10 at most on Amazon there. And I know there's like 3-packs I've gotten before around Christmas time. I think are still like $8 or $9 or something for a 3-pack. So yeah, definitely worth it to have something with you, because you never know when that time is going to come where either you're saving your own life or you're saving someone else's life because you thought ahead where that person may not have. So anyway, on that note, that's about it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I will be back. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday or when exactly it'll be. If I'm back tomorrow, it'll probably be on Honda's chat if he actually does a Sunday chat on his channel or not. I don't think he will, though. I know he'll do a Tuesday chat usually is if he does a Tuesday chat, because there's been times where he's slacked off on that shit too, is what it is. So right now my plan for the rest of the weekend is going to be, and this Valentine's Day, which sadly I still don't have anybody in my life to go celebrate this with, which would be nice if I did. It'd be nice if I had some poontang tonight. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So anyway, this sounds like well anyway. Unless it would be like a lonely old woman in the complex, which I'm not down for that right now. So yeah. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, I've got issues with my ankle. That's what it is, because I ended up rolling it a little bit the other day when I was going to get my package from the neighboring unit with Randy. It's fucking stupid. People won't be stupid what it is there. But anyway. Is that? Yeah. Yeah, I never really understood the whole men going their own way thing. And we've talked about this before in the past. I even talked about it before. with the men starting their own pathway kind of thing. And it would be, it would be like a variation of that, where it would be essentially dudes that would actually want to have a family and things like that, but maybe not be in like an actual marriage or whatever then. Because that is the one thing I've realized in my life now. Like, the state just wants dudes to get fucked over is what it is, dude. Like, they really do. Like, they want to use you up for tax revenue. They want to basically imprison you into a government-created union is what it is there, so they can tax all your family is what it is then. And then just completely fuck you over for, decades of your life, decades of your kids' lives, decades of your wife's life, etc. So, which I'm not saying I'm anti-marriage or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, it's just fucked up in general that we should have to go and get, like, marriage licenses and do all kinds of hullabaloo is what it is there because of the fucking government is what it is. So, anymore, I'm becoming very anti-government is what it is right now is what it seems like, dude. Just across the board currently, especially at a state level here, because they're just fucking over rights left and right here in Ohio. So that weed one really pisses me off. Which hopefully we can get that back on the ballot then. The people that are actually behind that cannabis amendment to do away with the Senate bill will actually get your job done there is what it is. But that's more of a political discussion. That's not for the next streams here is what it is. So if I have that, I'll talk about what it is there. But yeah, right now it's about 2 o'clock. I got some stuff I got to do. I'm actually very tired. I had a really weird nap last night. Ended up having a turkey sandwich when I got home with when my cousin dropped me off. And then I ended up having a couple turkey sandwiches. And I don't know if it was the tryptophan in my system or what it was, but I had like the weirdest like nod off around like 7-ish last night. And then woke up around like 7:40-ish or so. So it was about maybe like a half-hour nap. But then I was alert and awake. So until around midnight or so last night, and I ended up trying to get some sleep as it was there, and I ended up nodding off again then and getting a few good hours there. So it just wasn't enough is what it is. Because the stupid fucking trains again. I'm probably gonna go to Zillow after I finish this stream and look for places then, because I definitely need to get the fuck out of this place for sure. The lease is up in about 45 days, give or take. I'm probably going to go month to month come April, what it is then, hoping my dickhead landlord is not going to be a complete asshole and fuck me over then. Because I noticed there's a couple, specifically they haven't put the unit behind me Zillow as far as I was aware the other day. But there's 2 other ones in the comp. Are a 1 unit, or not a 1 unit, a 1 bedroom and a 2 bedroom. And what I'm currently paying on my current lease, the 1 bedroom down there that way was $25 more. So instead of being $725, it was $750. So hopefully, if he does come at me and was like, "Okay, I'm willing to go month to month with you for like however many months, whatever it is here," and maybe I'll just 3 months, whatever the case be, maybe he'll cut me a deal and be like, "I'll just do you $750 for all 3 months," is what it is, or something. So it'd be like $22.50 overall, or whatever then, for that 3-month time span. Because my plan right now, honestly, like I was telling my aunt, is going to be hopefully find a different place by June, or I should say the end of May, and then move in there come, hopefully May 30th / June 1st. And then it would be a situation where from that time period, if I can't find something by then, it would be, re-upping here for another year at that point, come, June or July is what it is then. So, because really I just want to be here at least through the primaries, just so I can have the ability to vote from this location is what it is. And if nothing else, then, it'll just be me having to re-up my voting registration then after the fact, come, me moving out or whatever before the November election will be then. So, hopefully we can primary Vivek's bitch ass out, because that is a globalist fucking faggot for sure, 100%. And I honestly really hope that the random Democrat guy that was trying to get on the ballot versus Acton for the Democrat primaries will get on there and primary her ass out too, for that matter, because her demonic ass needs to be in a prison cell right next to Vivek's ass is what it is. And piece of shit Mike DeWine, current governor of Ohio, needs to be with them in those prison cells. So, because they were all responsible for the COVID lockdowns, they were all responsible for crimes against humanity that directly led to my mother's death, etc., etc. So, I will never stop until I get revenge on all these fucking people who it is, dude. I heard a good one this morning. It was that motivation mindset guy who was talking about Trump specifically, and it was how Trump wrote a book years ago talking about revenge, and all these other people that are all like rich and stuff are like, oh yeah, I don't like revenge because you're rich or whatever, and Trump's book was like, no, fuck that, you kill them. And, you know, I would say jail them at this point, honestly, for the rest of their lives and let them just rot in a fucking prison cell down. Feed them all kinds of just, you know, shit food is what it is then. Give them that prison brick every day or whatever then. It'd be like Nuremberg basically on that bitch. So, anyway. To where they can't take their own lives and stuff like that, so you just take their chairs away and everything else like that's what it is. But, yeah. Anywho, that being said, that's what I'm after. If you guys enjoyed the stream, I'll be back, like I said, at some point. I might just do a grandstand or something here tomorrow or Monday morning or something, if the case. Just depends how I'm feeling and if I feel up to it or not. Right now, I'm going to go grab a bin to put all these blades in that I discussed today. I don't know if that one next to me right now is full up enough where I can put some of them in there or not. There might be enough space in that to get some of these in there. Just depends. Either way, yeah, if I could grab another bin, it's fine, but you know, if I could just grab one of these ones right here and just do it that way is what it is then. So, anywho, that's been it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I'll be back next Saturday. Well, next Friday, actually. It's Freedom Friday for real this time. I will do another Slicey Boy Saturday next Saturday. We might just discuss the jade collection at that point, which is all the jade handled knives I have. And just do like a bunch of knife slicing and stuff like that, what it is there, against various papers and cardboards and stuff like that to see how sharp a lot of these blades actually are, is what it is then. So, yeah, anyway. But yeah, until later, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Always be carrying. Always have a window breaker of some kind on you, whether it be on your knife, whether it be just an independent window breaker on your person, because you could save a life and it could be your own. So anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bye.